All right, I'm ready. All right, guys, welcome. Welcome to this great conversation. I've been waiting for a while to have this. If anyone's in the academy, you kind of know, and I've been talking about this forever. And if anybody's new on here, I started a company 3 years ago with Champ here, who's kind of helping me out on the Zoom. We are teaching the future of finance, cryptocurrency, and blockchain technology, AI, and all things. So we have an academy named Skyton Academy, and a lot of our students are on here now. And since last year, they've been hearing the pivot with just changes that I'm going through, just personally in life and growth. And part of that was to explore outside of the United States. When you start to research the future of finance and even just how things are done, right? Because prior to this, I'm definitely not a finance major or anything like that. I was deeply invested in cryptocurrency for the last 10 years. What it did do for me was it gave me a gift to be able to see further out into the future and start to look at not only American politics, but just geopolitics and the landscape. And everything that's happening today, I saw years ago. And some of you might have felt that if you're a visionary. We have Rotisha on the line, and I'll bring her on to kind of introduce herself and how she's a pivotal connection point to this even happening today, right? Um, So during the pandemic, I was getting this message to just let's leave America. Let's leave America. I didn't even know where. It's just something was telling me, let's just go explore. We'll have the time. Things are shut down. My wife and I, having two kids, teenagers now, it was difficult to just uproot and just try to move around the world as the world was kind of burning at the time. So we missed that boat. And for obvious reasons, is just some countries you couldn't even get into, and we ended up just hunkering in. And I told her, I was like, listen, there's going to be a lot more to come in the future. So what I don't want to happen is to not have options, right? And what I mean by that is only holding a United States passport doesn't give you access to the world if something was to close off, right? So as we're going further into the teaching with the Trump administration, we noticed um, a lot of changes happening in geopolitics when he came in. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not here to endorse or talk bad about what's happening. It's just it just is what it is, right? We all play a role, and we are in charge of our own destiny, no matter who's in charge. But the one thing that did stand out to me was a lot of the closing of the borders for all countries, right? So we started to I went down a rabbit hole of researching different countries to move to, how to obtain second passports, following individuals, and having students in my class who have second passports, and just learning so much about that landscape. And I did a post online that was about expat life, and it went viral. It was my first viral post. It took off. the The headline was "Wealthy Americans Getting Second Passports at an All-Time High," and the comments went crazy. And this is where I met Rotisha. So everything happens for a reason. So I'm a guy that can pivot quick. So when I started to see the comments and people were in my inbox like, "Hey, I left America, I moved here," instantly I said, "You know what? Let me start interviewing these people," right? Because that's the biggest thing, is how do you move, the fear behind it. And the one thing I realized was there was a lot of women that took the leap, whether they were single, married, they just seemed to be I mean, those are the decision makers in the household, right? But the amount of single women that left, and I'm like, wait a minute, single women with children, I'm like, this is definitely possible. And I'm a guy that does the impossible anyway. But just hearing the stories of something that I didn't do. So I remember last year, my wife and I were talking, and she connected a wild dot for me. So I am a first generation Haitian American. So that means my father immigrated here from Haiti. I have his certificate here of naturalization. So I was about 3 years old when he got that certificate. So I remember my wife, with a download, just said, listen, everything's going to be okay. Your father did this, so you're the 2.0 version of it. Go get it. And it so much emotion just released from that point. So, personal story, my father has dementia and Parkinson's. And if there's any questions that I have for the guy today, it would be this journey that I'm on, that he was on. The only difference is I have children and a lot more information. So he didn't have kids, and he definitely didn't have a cell phone when he came here with the internet, right? So I would love to just hear the journey firsthand from him, right? So you come from a lot of these older generations, especially Haitian Americans. There's not a lot of communication within the household. There's not enough sharing of stories. They more suppress the stories for whatever reason, right? We could learn from a lot of it. So I'm picking pieces up from family members and things like that. So when she said that statement, it broke me down, and I was like, I got it, right? That's what set off this entire thing. So going back to the post, I start to conduct interviews. Thailand, a young lady left the mainland of Hawaii. The UK, she left America to go to the UK, and some people might ask why. It was just personal stuff that was happening. And then the granddaddy of them all was Rhodesia, because I had no interest in going to the UK or Thailand, right? But what I was interested in was the journey and the why. What I started to realize was everybody knew that something was going to happen in America, and they just wanted to get off not only the rat race, but just everything that's happening now. They saw it then and was able to make the adjustment, right? So even when I'm following up with a lot of people, and here's the kicker. Last year, as things were burning, the politics, I mean, they were gaslighting us during the elections. The only people that I spoke to that were happy, that didn't have anything negative to say, were the expats that left the United States. They had no care about what was happening in politics in the US. It was not affecting their lives. Right or wrong, Rotisha. Okay, you could.
Absolutely correct. It just doesn't come up to us.
Right.
We're living different lives. Yeah.
Exactly. Still as Americans, but different lives. So I had a friend who was putting me on to a lot of the second passports. He was going to different countries, Serbia, all over, and grabbing some major passports. And I remember having a conversation with him one day, and he was like, I was like, yeah, Brad, you didn't hear about such and such. He was like, listen, I'm in La Paz, Mexico, and I don't even understand the language in the on the news. Yo no sé. Right. So I'm just like, listen, there's got to be more to this situation here. We get to this point where we feel as if where you're born is where you stay, right? And you kind of have this allegiance. But it's crazy because when you have that 2 week vacation, what's the first thing you want to do? Stamp that passport. So I told my wife, I was like, listen, why wait till we retire to create the life that we want when we're business owners? We have the flexibility. We invest in real estate. So my background is real estate developer. She's an attorney. We have a real estate brokerage in New York. So we're very familiar with the real estate landscape. And what better thing to do but to own a piece of paradise? So when I started to so the interview with Rotisha was amazing. My wife actually interviewed her, and they had a great conversation, and I'll send that one out so you guys can kind of get a little bit more backstory on Rotisha. She won't go too deep into things, but you'll get to know who she is and what role she plays in this whole thing. So when she mentioned Santa Marta, I was kind of looking at different places. I'm big on astrology, so I was looking at locations based on my wife's and I chart to see what will work for us in the long run. And Mexico, Cabo was kind of the place that we loved to travel. And figured, listen, one day we're going to own a house here. And Cabo happens to be one of the places that align with us astrologically for us to retire. So when Santa Marta came into play, when you're moving or thinking of purchasing things in other countries, you can't fall for the hype that's on the internet, right? You have to see the place. You have to, before seeing the place, if you're looking to invest, you have to understand the political system, the climate, right? And just go down a rabbit hole of speaking to people who were there. And that's the good thing about the internet, because you go to TikTok, good, bad, or indifferent, they're going to tell you everything about the experience, right? So in today's time, we have information. So, I have to commend my father now, because I don't know how he did it without a roadmap. Like never being to the country, moving in with people in Canada, then coming to New York, and then meeting my, mom, and all the things. I'm just like, wow, because the amount of information and due diligence that I do, right? And as great as a resource Rotisha was, I always make sure that I understand the landscape, right? That's another thing. You have to um, be in control. At the end of the day, you have to make the decision, right? So We fast forward to my wife and I taking a vacation. We said, you know what, we're going to go to Colombia. We've never been to South America before. South America is one of those places where so many people, a lot of people have gone, but there's so many people are like, yo, it's been on my list, it's been on my list, it's been on my list, right? So for me, when I invest in real estate, we always invest in emerging markets, right? So then I started to look at beach towns before they actually blew up. So I went to Tulum, looking at Cancun, and every single one of those places was an emerging market. And all it did was there was a catalyst that triggered what we know today of these places. So when I'm looking at a market, I'm looking for those particular points. Is there a major airline? Yeah. Are there major cities? Is there top tourist attractions? Like you name it, I went down the extreme rabbit hole with this situation. And when Rotisha told me about Santa Marta, I looked because most of the friends that I know that been to Colombia, it's Medellin, and then of course Cartagena is like the place to party and all things. So we planned this multi-city trip. Medellin flew in, couple days. It was all for Santa Marta, but she's like, listen, we have to see a major city. So we picked Medellin over Bogota, right? And then we went to Cartagena for 2 days. Again, Rotisha's recommendation. All you need is 2 days, and she was right. After 2 days, I'm like, get me out of here. If you know, then you know. If you don't, it's a party town. It's a wall city. You kind of get haggled a lot. The beaches are, but beach clubs are amazing. That's the part. The restaurants are great. The beach clubs are great. But like I said, you can go for a couple days in and out, and then get back to where you're going. And then we land in Santa Marta. So coming into it, all we see is high rises from, depending on which side of the plane you sit on, you want to sit on the right side. The left side would be the ocean, the right side would be the action. So I'm like, this is looking like Miami. So the minute I get off the airport easy, it's, you get to some airports and you feel like overwhelmed. This one is like a easy in, easy out. And I'm not saying that you get through fast. It's just the size of it is bearable. It's not Atlanta. All right. So we get off the airport. The access to where we stayed was close, right? So it's not one of these 3, 4 hour drives. Everything's there. Full service buildings, high rise. So throughout the trip in South America, we wanted to stay in different areas, right? Mountain elevation, uh, kind of in the heart of the city, the wall city in Cartagena. And then when we get to Santa Marta, we are like, we're going to get a high rise with a beachfront view. Me not knowing that the view is not only a beachfront, but there's also mountains all around. And I've seen the photos, but it's one thing to see it in person. So when we land, we get with an agent that we were initially working with, and he had some tours set up. So boom, we're right out into the city, just kind of exploring some real estate. What I could remember standing out the most was looking at these high rises and speaking to the agents and them telling us that these are Colombian investors who are building these things, right? Because you go to certain places and it's colonized. It's like everybody else but the locals. And then looking at the buildings and seeing how much full service amenities they had in them. Multiple pools, 10 plus jacuzzis. I don't know what the jacuzzi thing is, but it does get cool at night though. But initially, I'm like, this is hot. Why is there so many jacuzzis? Um, Indoor soccer. I mean, you name it. Movie theaters, bowling alleys, and Rotisha is a wealth of information because she puts on tours and she could connect you with all the things that are happening out there from a real estate standpoint, right? And getting the lay of the land from her, and we only spent 2 days there, so it wasn't enough. We loved it. It wasn't like, oh, fell in love with it because we didn't have enough days. So I just recently came back from an 8 day trip, and I'm telling you, I did not want to come home. I had some birthdays, my wife, well, my daughter's birthday, and then my wife's birthday. If it wasn't for that, I would have just extended the trip, and I'm going right back again. The amount of energy that's in that place, and it's crazy because I kept pushing my dates back, and it ended up falling on what they call their Holy Week, so it happened to be lively. So I got to see the locals of Colombia, people from Bogota, Medellin that traveled there. So when you're looking at the landscape of where Santa Marta is at, that's their playground because Medellin doesn't have a beach, Bogota doesn't have a beach, and it's either you're going to go to Cartagena, which is not really the place for those people from what I hear, and they shoot over to Santa Marta. It's a lot more, family friendly and just a bit for me. It's a bit more expansive because of the ecotourism that's out there. So not only do you get a long beach line, but you also have this untapped, uh, just nature all around you. Right? I didn't feel that in Cartagena. It was like the wall city. Right? You can go a little bit outside, but it definitely doesn't have the magic of Santa Marta. So of course, me, I'm a numbers guy. So you start to see that it's 60% cheaper than Medellin, 60% cheaper than Bogota, 40% cheaper than Medellin, right? And definitely cheaper than Cartagena that's already developed. Cartagena can't get any bigger at this point. Santa Marta could actually grow outwards. Okay. So they have everything from high rise luxury to a nice historical area, which I like better than Cartagena. And then you start to spread out into what I call the jungle. And that's where the magic happens. This is where we decided to lay roots first. So let me start. 1 second. Real Tisha, you want to come on and just give us short of what got you out there?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone. Um, it's I think people I answer this question so many times, right? And I try to come up with something that makes sense, but it doesn't make sense why I'm here. The only thing that makes sense is I was directed to be here. I never looked up Colombia as a place to live. Like it just wasn't on my agenda. But again, it was a download. It was a spiritual warfare I was having. It was almost similar to Steve. It was like, you got to get out of here. And in 2021, we made that jump and moved here. Literally, I think Monday was my 4-year anniversary of coming here for the first time. And then we moved in May. No, we moved in June. I'm sorry. We moved in June. So about 2 months later. So it, I don't know. And I honestly didn't even think I was going to live in Santa Marta. I thought I was going to live in Banakia. But when you get off the plane, you're literally flying into the beach. And it's something magical and spiritual about living near and on the water, to the point where I know I can't leave. Like, I don't have no desire to leave. I don't want to leave. And it was almost like it was meant to happen because it was the path of least resistance for me. So I tell people all the time, hey, look, figure out what chooses you. Colombia might not be it, but figure out what chooses you. I think it's an emerging market. We're 2.5 hours from Miami. There's so many things happening in Colombia as a whole, not just Santa Marta. But you also got to look at, when you're thinking about beachfront countries or wherever, everything is already overpriced in so many other areas. Dominican Republic, Mexico, all of these places. Colombia is the most affordable place right now and is one of the easiest places to get a visa. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I didn't really, it wasn't like, oh my God, I've been thinking of living abroad all my life. It was something that came to me. It was like, it was time for you to leave. I had an amazing life in Atlanta. Me and my husband, we have our son, and it was just like, hey, it's time to go. And I just listened. I honestly just listened. And because I listened, I can tell you guys, if you're getting that push to leave, if something is telling you it's time for you to go and you're having all these issues, I started having anxiety out of the blue. I didn't know why. That space was no longer for me. I didn't align with the frequency of Atlanta anymore. And that's why I was having all of those issues. I couldn't sleep. I was taking all type of sleeping pills. And the moment I got here, not in 10 days, 7 days, no, the moment I got here, I instantly felt better. I've never taken a sleeping pill here. So it was a lot of things. Me not listening until it was like, okay, you're out of here. And when it said you're out of here, I didn't have time to think. It was like, you're out of here, go find a place, go travel, figure where you're going, come back, sell everything and go. And I did. And I think that's why I've had such an amazing opportunity here, experience here. I've been received here. So I don't know, but if you're getting that itch and it's telling you you no longer feel good where you are, you're making all the money, you're still unhappy, listen, You're rewarded when you listen.
Wow. So I touched a little bit about why Santa Marta, but the place offers a rare blend of like natural beauty, and this was the most important part to me, the spiritual energy that's out there. Of course, she talked about the affordability and then the untapped tourism potential. So when you mix, that's a pretty impressive combination there, and especially the spiritual energy. So this is why, or what drew me to being aligned with the place, especially in the 8 days. The 2 days just wasn't enough. The 8 days was super memorable, and just incredible. So Sebastian's on the call. He was kind of one of my guys I met through Rotisha, and I had a conversation with him when we were at a place called Minka, and I mean just high elevation overlooking everything. It felt like you were on top of the world. And he said to me, and I was just like, the energy of the people here is so amazing. What stood out to me the most, Sebastian, was he says, for so long they've been ravaged by the crime and the drug and just the death and they've just seen a lot of people get murdered. And he was like, that just makes you appreciate life. And that's why Colombians is just so full of like joy and love. And I was just like, that's it. Right. When you're talking about making, a diamond out of like a coal, that's the spirit of these people. And then the attorney that we're using currently, she said, well, she introduced me to two other investors who happen to be African American. Great. I'm getting that side of the real side of the story from these guys. And one of the gentlemen was from Jamaica. And he says, as much as I want to go back home, they have a colonized mentality. Right. So this is, and I can't go back to Haiti because of the everything that's happening there. And he says, Colombia, he had college friends that were from Colombia. And this is what I heard from a lot of people, like people that they've met in the United States that were from Colombia. They've always had good things to say about them. So finally, when he went out there for work, long story short, he says, I don't feel like a black man in Colombia. So Rotisha, I don't know if you want to chime in on that as a sister that lived in Atlanta. How do you feel you're treated out there?
This is so true. And I try to articulate it in a way for people to understand, but just imagine waking up for the first time and you're not a nigga. Like,
Wow.
I don't know no other way to put it, but imagine walking the street, being out around police, whatever you wanted to do, whatever you wanted to buy. I don't care how expensive the store is, no one's following you. They have respect for you for the first time. I'm not a nigga. And I
Wow.
don't want that feeling anymore. I don't want the feeling of like I have to act a certain way because I'm this place or these people are here. I have to, watch. It's not just that. Like people still think Colombia. I'm gonna just touch on this a little bit about the safety issue. It's so crazy to me, and I honestly do want people to still be afraid to come here because we don't need everybody. Um, but people get killed every day in your city, in all of your cities. It don't make you feel like, oh my God, I gotta leave because it's dangerous. It's now making you feel that way because so much is happening now in the United States. But crime doesn't really affect tourism if you're not looking for that type of crime, type of thing. I've had an amazing 4 years. All of my clients have an amazing time here. None of us want to leave, but the feeling that you can walk in any store and be yourself every day, I don't know. It's like taking a big relief, like your nervous system is finally at peace. At peace. So that's why you see people, and you might see them on social media, like, why are they smiling? They can't be having that much a good time. We are. We are. I don't know what y'all doing, but we having a great time, and finally life is just in a place too. And this sounds crazy, but just imagine being somewhere where nothing is too expensive. That's another set of freedom that you don't even think about, right? And so it allows you to have other experiences in life. It allows you to curate your day on how you want your day to be. But anyway, you keep going. I'm sorry.
Nah, it's good. I know you can go on all day with this one.
I can go all day.
So let me if Mary, if you want to unmute, this is my partner here, and she can kind of give you her spiel. I kind of set the table a little bit here. Um, What do you have?
Hey y'all. Hey Rotisha. Uh-oh, I can't hear. Hold on.
Hey, beautiful. I
Hey,
missed you
hey.
last
Okay.
trip.
Um, yeah, so I echo everything Steve said. And actually, when I was telling him about, let me plug in my phone real quick before it dies. When I was telling him about him being the 2.0 version of his father, 3 out of 4 of our parents are immigrants. My mother is from Korea. Both of his parents immigrated from Haiti, and then I'm just like, this just makes sense. Like, why wouldn't we have this in our blood to explore and it be our birthright to know that the entire world is ours? We are not limited. Our parents had the courage and enough wherewithal to say, listen, this doesn't feel right. And we're going to try something else, even though it was probably really scary in the day of no internet. And so, fast forward to present day where we have all of these resources and the world is a lot smaller due to technology. Why would we not do that? Especially with what's happening where we are. So, I'm a Taurus, so it is hard to move me off of like my comfort, familiarity, and stability, right? So when Steve brought this up in 2020, of just like, let's just go. And we didn't have anywhere like in mind. We didn't know Rotisha or anything like that. I'm like, yeah, okay. You come back with a plan and let's talk. So, when we went out to Colombia, I won't say that like immediately I felt like, okay, this is where we're supposed to be. But there were things that stuck out in terms of like, the people are very warm. Uh the food is good. Like I said, I'm a Taurus, so it's like food needs to check off. And when we went to Santa Marta, it felt like my depth of field, like I'm an artist, so like I'm about the visuals. It felt like my depth of field had just like gotten like expanded. When you look out and you can see miles and miles and miles and miles away, because the elevation is so high. That's what stood out for me. I'm just like, wow, like I'm having a different like just sensory experience here, you know. Um, so also our dream has always been to have a wellness retreat. So also with Santa Marta being so much of a spiritual place, it was like just the alignment was just happening. Very like just like I couldn't deny it. It was happening, even though I'm just like, I don't know, I don't speak Spanish, like that enough to like, I can be polite and crack a little joke here and there, but still un poquito. What am I gonna do? Like that was the big thing for me, the language, right? But again, with technology, it's just like we're coming upon a day where at some point, like we're gonna have a little something that's gonna translate it all anyway, and we're gonna just feed off of the energy. So it felt good out there. It felt good. I really resonate with what Rotisha was saying about like not feeling like a nigger. When we were in Medellin and like seeing all of the art, it's all us, big and thick and beautiful. And another thing that happened, alignment, well, two things happened. So I don't want to ramble, but it made sense, right? So before we went to Colombia, I happened to be on a retreat somewhere else for something else. And I had a reading with a shaman. And so for kicks, I'm like, well, let's do a tarot reading about like just different countries that were coming up for us. And let me see what the energy is for these different countries. So for Colombia, she said to me, it would be a death and rebirth. So just follow, right? So we're in Colombia, we're, touring everywhere. And I'm just keeping that in mind. So first thing I notice is everyone's wearing emeralds. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of emeralds. Like and it's not really like a gem that you see a lot of here in the States, you know, unless it's maybe your birthstone. And so I start to inquire, like, what's with all the emerald shops? And then I learned that Colombia produces up to 90% of all the emeralds in the world. And it happens to be my birthstone. So I thought the birth, right? Like a death and rebirth. And so, okay, I clocked it. Then we're in Cartagena and we're at the beach club and everything. And mind you, like everything is in Spanish. So I'm kind of like blocking out a lot of like what's happening around me sensory wise because I don't understand. So we're walking around and I just hear Mira, Mira. And I'm like, finally I just turn because I'm like, who's calling my name? It's a friend from high school. A friend from home. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, this is wild. Like, and this doesn't happen to me, let alone to like be in a completely different continent and to see someone from home who like knows me. Like, you know, like he's like, listen, I'm so excited. Let's take a picture. Wu-Tang, all of the things, right? So I'm just like, okay, this is another little check of a good omen, right? So at that point, I had home and I had birth, right? The birthstone. So the last night we were in Medellin, we went to dinner at a beautiful restaurant. It's nighttime. We're coming back. We rented like a little like tree house type of cabin. So we're in the Uber on the way back, and road is closed. And so we're like, oh, okay, police are there. We can't go. So then we have to go basically around the mountain another 20 minutes to try to go the other way. We get that way, road closed that way too. And so now we're kind of panicking like we're in this Uber. We can't stay in this Uber indefinitely. What's happening? How are we going to get back to our things? We're leaving the next day. And then the Uber driver says, after he spoke to the police officer, it's like, there's been an accident and there was a death. And we have to wait for them to clear the body, basically, for the road to open. But I can leave you at this restaurant. It's like outdoor restaurant on the side of the road. It's like, I can leave. It's like 10 o'clock at night, mind you. It's like, I can leave you here. You will be safe. And at that point, it's just like, what else were we going to do? We just had to have faith and trust, right? So we get out, we sit there, we have some little hot chocolate, just hoping, you know, because he said it would be 2 to 3 hours. I'm not dressed properly. It's getting a little chilly. I'm like, okay, I'm a little concerned, right? But we just, you know, we trusted. It cleared within 30 minutes. We see it, whatever. And then it popped back into my mind a death and a rebirth. And I was like, okay, Columbia, I got the little message. And from here on, I'm just going to trust. So that was the spiritual part of where I'm like, okay, the alignment is here. There's something here. And let's just see what it's about. So when we visited the property that Steve is going to show you, again, it was checking off the wow, this was the dream, right? And this has all this spiritual energy. And the last thing for me that made me say, okay, God, I got it. I won't fight you on it too much more. Was that so the property sits on the river and it like 50 yards up is the ocean, right? So there was something about that like feeding into the ocean and can see it right there that struck me as interesting. So I started to look up like what is that and what's the spiritual, you know, meaning behind that. So that's called an estuary where the fresh water meets the salt water. And it's a really kind of magical ecosystem. You'll get certain type of animals and plants that will only exist in places like that because you got the fresh water and the salt water meeting together. And then I'm like, all right, estuary, I like that. So let me take it a little bit further. What's the spiritual meaning behind this estuary? And I started to look it up and I found, what was it, Ezekiel 47 in the Bible?
Mhm. Yep.
Ezekiel 47, maybe 48. But it spoke about that being the prophecy that there would be this estuary. And it was a prophecy of like this kind of safe haven. It would be the safe haven where humanity can grow and be safe and everything would be fruitful. It would not fail. It would be a society that would not fail. And I'm like, all right, done. Give me my estuary with all my fruitfulness. Let me bring my friends. Let's have our tribe there. Let's get this wellness retreat. Let's have a real sanctuary where we can go and feel safe and be restored and just have something different than the chaos, the trauma, the exploitation, the overconsumption that we are experiencing here. It felt different there and affordable. It's like, oh, okay, no, we definitely bringing the whole tribe. So this is why you're on this call. And yeah, let's see what happens.
I love that. I freaking love that.
She's a dot connector, man. Like,
Ah,
I'm not even seeing it the way she's seeing it.
I love that. Like, we're gonna have to
Yeah, I
talk
mean the
more
the
about that.
intuition was just like just vibrating,
Yes.
where and it would have to be for me to be open to that because I'm very like, listen, I don't, what am I gonna do out
Mm-hmm.
there? You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I got that feeling and just putting it together with that our parents had done this before with way less.
Yes.
Let's go.
Let's go. And that's one thing we forget about all of our parents. Everyone were voyagers, like they went out on journeys to come and create something for their family and bring it back. We've lost that because America cannot survive as a superpower if we all leave. If we
Right.
all figure out that life can be better, it can be safer, it can be fruitful, it can be less stressful, America would fail. And so we've been put in a box of fear for so long that people are really truly afraid to step outside that box. And what's the worst could happen? You try it out and go back home, so be
Right.
it. Everybody should be not afraid to reinvent themselves. We are here to only create, show faith, do amazing things, think big, and believe big. The universe is always going to have us. Always. It's always going to work out. It's always.
Nice. Man, how do I follow up to that? So listen, there's a statement I make at the academy where I say the first world is going to be the third world, and the third world is going to be the first world. And I've been saying this for a while now, even before making this move and putting this whole play together. And what I mean by that is it these countries are starting to figure things out, right? The separation from certain powers that were kind of holding them back, the bondage is starting to clear. But with that comes a pendulum swing. So that means the first world is going to have to suffer too. The Europes, the Americas, the Canadas, right? Every time we travel to a country, we have to drive through poverty for the most part. Like all the island places we visit, there's not a lot of money. There's more poverty in the world than there is like wealth. So there is a false sense of security in this country, right? Privilege that we have because we have access to anything. But when I started to learn financing, I started to realize I said, listen, there's no way that we could sustain one, this constant work, right? Two, this amount of debt that they put on us. We all are there, right? No one's buying homes and cars outright cash. They make it like really simple for us to afford pleasures. And none of us are really acting our wage correctly. So when Rotisha brought up the situation with how affordable Santa Marta is, I'm there for 8 days. Two things happened to me. I purposely booked a flight back to do a layover in Florida so I could meet one of our contributors who's going to be coming onto the academy. So when I landed, we went to dinner. I took care of the bill and the price of just the two plates. I didn't spend that in probably three restaurants. And I'm talking about different quality of food too. The second thing that jumped out is we went to dinner for my daughter's birthday on the very next day, and I felt immediately sick as I was eating in the restaurant. Woke up with body aches, and I'm kind of healthy. I knew immediately that, after being out there in that sun for that 8 days of just constantly eating, I'm talking about every meal has fresh juice. You can't have a bad meal there at all. And the pricing is just ridiculous. So even when we ate in Medellin, people are like, "Oh, you're going into the tourist traps and stuff like that." I just wanted to stay in places that, kind of familiar and not to go too far into whatever. That was the most expensive food in their world. But man, listen, that for every three restaurants is kind of the one bill in America, and with better quality food too, right? And we don't skim out on what we order. So our money took us a lot further um, in Santa Marta, but it wasn't so much about the money, it was the quality of the food. Every night there's entertainment inside the restaurants. And my wife and I, when we go on vacation, we swear we're the only ones that dress up in places where we go, right? The airports in America are crazy. People just wear whatever, and we're constantly like, yo, we look wild out here. So I told her, she noticed it. The guys are in button downs at night for dinner. Women are in dresses. I mean, there's linen. They actually sell real clothing, real textiles. That's another thing that we're big on now, right? We're buying linen. We're seeing things that are 100% cotton. And I'm like, yo, where are the days of like, you just see the level it's just a different culture compared to America. It's not the uh, sweatsuits and active wear that we're now doing in America. So I told her if she would have came on this trip, seeing the type of people that were in the restaurants, because I'm paying attention now, right? The details, and what I like the most about the country is you can any park at 9 o'clock at night, you're gonna see grandma, grandpa, mother, father, child. So I'm like, there's no way that this place is unsafe when you can see that in the park. In every park, there's a church. It's like it's a weird setup, but it's just great to see so many generations still commingling, even to the point where sometimes I'm messaging the attorney and she's like, "Hey, I'm having dinner with my parents," like just to be cordial. But this was always her comeback. She could have easily ignored it, but it was always family time. And I'm like, that's the culture that we're looking for. The
Steve, can I
second
tell
time I
you
went,
something?
yep,
Because I just remembered that whole
um,
Ezekiel 47.
yep,
So another reason why that was so much of a sign for me was, if you know Steve from Skyton Academy, kind of his students have kind of coined him Crypto Moses, right? Another biblical reference. So the book of Ezekiel is, the prophecy, right? The prophets. And Steve is currently the age 47. And so the prophecy was that the river would flow into the Dead Sea and make it alive again with fish and vegetation. So that was the real, like, okay, yeah, no, this is definitely the 47. I just had to get that off before I forgot.
no, that was nice. So I was telling him the second time I went, the first time was more of a trying to control, to understand. I had to let my guard down and use my intuition more because you don't understand what they're saying. And I mean, they're wheeling off conversation like you're Colombian, right? Which is cool. The second time I noticed that I was more at ease when I was there, and I wasn't pulling out the Google Translate too much. Felt like I was speaking Spanish, but I wasn't. And I just got it, right? And Rotisha gave me one last piece before I left. She was like, they act like they don't know how to give you change back, and they may not because of the conversion rate. So when you give money, sometimes it's like that was my only kind of frustration. And she pointed out, she was like, but listen, when you do the math, you're only talking about a couple dollars. Let it go. Right. So that was kind of one of the pieces. But being out there for 8 days and not feeling and being by myself and not feeling I guess Sebastian helped too, because being with him a couple days, he speaks English, which was great. But overall, I didn't feel like there was a barrier. The first time I was relying on the technology, the Uber. This time it was just flowy, and I went to more places. So what's coming to Santa Marta, right? You have wellness seekers, conscious travelers, um, coming for healing, rest, nature immersions, retreats. This is all the stuff that you're seeing up there. Yoga, meditation, plant medicine, sound healing, nature reconnection. Some of the top people that are coming into Santa Marta to visit: US, of course, Canada, Germany, big German crowd, Netherlands, UK, Scandinavia, just to name a few. Digital nomads and remote professionals. All right. So they're picking Santa Marta over Bali and Tulum because of affordability and serenity. All right. Long term stay. They stay between 1 and 6 months seeking co working and nature spaces. And then the big draws for Americans, Europeans, and Australian. And where we're at, we have a lot of Australian investors in different lots near us. So they're drawn to the place too. One thing that stood out to me on the call with the attorney, she says, Colombia doesn't really do business with the Chinese. And I was like, whoa, I like that. If you know about the Chinese, you know that they'll come to your country and play dumb and quiet, but they would overfish, they would bring in their own labor, and they would extract silently. So that stood out to me. And then a certain person on this call, and I won't say the person's name, had told me that they kind of ran out a group of people that started with a J and ends with an H, and you guys could kind of fill in the blanks. And if you know in the academy, you kind of know what I'm talking about. I'm not trying to alienate things. You have to look at the geopolitical landscape and see who's there, right? And that gives you an idea of this country is really trying to preserve their culture because they're not selling it out to Western and others, right? Who can do a little much, right? So that was really important to me in figuring out where we're going to invest. And then you have the eco tourists and adventures. So hikers, rivers, divers, nature reserves, jungle tracks. Most people are visiting this park called Tirona. And then you have Minca, and you guys could kind of fill in those blanks. I'm just Palomino, the Lost Cities. These are all places, and the guys, I'll bring you into the fold, and I'll start sending you, just links on these things, and you can do your own research too. Another group is going to be expats and retirees and lifestyle migrants. All right, so people are moving, buying second homes due to lower cost of living and lifestyle freedom and again, freedom even for business. What I see Rotisha doing in her verticals, how quick she was able to establish businesses, even going through the process here, where it's just like, nah, we don't really have to ask for permission to do things. They're kind of hands off here. All right. So it gives you the flexibility and the ease. Then you have people looking for healthcare, safety, stability, and connection to nature. One of the biggest things when Americans think about leaving, they say healthcare, but the healthcare. And I'm like, we only harp on healthcare because the food is killing us here. There is really no such thing as like diabetes and all this other stuff that goes on in these countries because they're not really vaccinating children at a high rate. They're not in the pharmaceutical game. There's just some games that they don't play, right? And this is one of those places. So I tell people, and the first thing when I started to speak to people from other that moved to other countries, they told me how much weight they lost, not even going to the gym, right? Because they sell us on all these lifestyles, no dieting, really just two things. That sun is on your neck, right? There's days where I've never seen an American sun that big before, obviously, because it's where it's located is right on the equator. That sun, the amount of vitamin D that you get from that thing is gonna just be the ultimate healer of all things. And then you have just the organic way that they grow things. I mean, food is of abundance. And even this land, the amount of mangoes that we saw, and Rotisha tell you, the coconuts that we drank from that place and the amount of juice or water inside this coconut is absolutely amazing. But that's due to the river, which is a natural river fed by the Sierra Nevada. And there's a whole history behind that, but I'm not going to go into it. So we're talking about some of the best water on earth. So everything is fruitful and everything's abundant. So when she talked about the estuary where the river meets the sea, at that point in the Caribbean Sea, that water turns fresh. This is where the fish meet. So you can fish there with no problem, with ease. This is where they go. So that's another part of it. And the place actually sits probably 50 yards from the Caribbean Sea. So you can see the beach from the river and just kayak upstream, right? So those are the type of people that are coming there. So the top tourist attractions, again, I told you about Tirona National Park, natural park, untouched. I mean, you got to hike when you get in there, but it's the biggest attraction in Colombia. Over 500,000 visitors a year, and we're 8 minutes from that location. All right. You have jungle trails, sacred beaches, spiritual tourism. Minka, which Sebastian, I'll bring him on. He was DJing at a place in Minka that was it was like a sunset party. I'm not a partier, but the energy in this place was absolutely amazing. The elevation was so high, watching the sunset and just hearing a DJ play like, I'm not talking about like house music and stuff like that. It's like this like some type of electronic beat that I've never heard before, but it was so spiritual. Okay. Um, And then, so Minka is good for, it's known for waterfalls, coffee farms, eco lodging, mountain views. You got it's so many places, guys. Like just too much to name. All right. So now that I have Rotisha here, this is her first time visiting the property because we had a tour and she brought some of her people. This is where I got introduced to Sebastian. I'll bring them on to kind of give their scope on like what they thought of the property, one, and two, the location of the property, right? So I'll bring them on in a second. So here's the part with the tourism and growth and market trends. So Santa Marta received over 3.3 million visitors in 2023, right? And this is coming from the Colombian Tourism Board. Tyrona Park alone sees over 500,000 people annually. Wellness tourism globally is projected to reach $1.4 trillion by 2027. Guys, you can't put too much on that beach line there. There's restrictions on how you can build, how high you can build. So it's not going to be one of those things where you see a 20-story Marriott. The rules are single story. So everything's going to be intimate and small. And when you have things like that, and I made it a thing in the 8 days to stay at different places in the area. And I'm telling you, the way that they curate it is absolutely amazing. Every meal, from the shampoo, from showering outside to forgetting that they gave me earplugs and sleeping through the night and hearing all types of stuff, getting hit in the head with avocado falling from the trees is like a natural thing, right? Just the three places just were all gems in itself, right? So then you have Colombia is ranked in the top 5 in Latin America for nature-based tourism, adventure travel, digital nomad destination. All right. And it's officially recognized as the strategic tourism development zone. It hasn't even begun yet. Right. So the infrastructure upgrades, airport, they're going to modernize the airport, coastal roads, digital connectivity. That stuff still hasn't come yet. Government incentives for sustainable tourism projects. They're pouring money into that. So why is this a smart place to invest? Affordability advantages. Santa Marta, again, like I said, is 40 to 60% lower than Cartagena and Medellin. Beachfront or riverfront land is still available, but limited and rising in price. Higher upside potential. So less saturation, lower entry cost equals higher potential yield for early investors. This is kind of where we're at right now. Increasing long stay demand. So nomads, healers, wellness travelers are staying weeks or months, not just for the weekend. It's not a place you go just for that. The strong US dollar gives investors more leverage in developing and hiring. When I tell you the cost of hiring employees, my goodness, I had to ask the question over and over, like, you sure it's $500 a month? Like $400 a month? And I'm like, you can't be. But then when you look at the cost of living, then it's kind of it's there, right? So the climate, this is what I talk about and natural stability. So the average temperature is about 82 degrees. One thing I realize is I need to start learning my real conversion tables because this American thing does not float in any other country besides America. So kilometers, Celsius, and all things. I'm still converting, but I'm getting better in hectares and things like that. Right. I'm going to definitely master that stuff. 300 days a year of sunshine per year, ideal for tourism and outdoor programming. No hurricanes, no earthquakes, no natural disasters. Protected by mountains and positioned south of the Caribbean hurricane belt. So anything south of that is nothing's ever happened. And then considered one of the most climate repellent regions in Latin America. So this is the part where I tell you when you do the research, guys, Bali, you've seen what happened in Thailand. All these places are under a pole shift, right? You have active volcanoes, and within the next 13 years, you're going to start to see a lot of that stuff move. And I'm truly believing that we're going to see so many disasters in places that we love that they're going to all come pouring into this one place. It won't be able to fit them, but there'll be an abundance of people coming to visit. And at that point, you can ask for whatever you want if you ever wanted to cash out with these opportunities here. And Rotisha's a big person that connects a lot of dots in real estate in that country.
I just got home from Bali, man. It ain't even close, bro.
Oh man, nah. What'd you get?
Man, we got home last night from Bali. Colombia a million times better.
And you've been to Colombia, so you're saying this because you know this
You
firsthand.
already know, man. You already know.
Untapped market, man. Untapped market. So that means there's huge potential. So what does it mean for investors? Visually stunning, spiritually charged, financially affordable, tourism ready, and fast growing. All right. So we're talking about, you're just aligned with like a conscious investment. And listen, guys, I'm not the guy looking for like Vegas like atmospheres, but you can get some action in Medellin. You can get some action in Cartagena. You can even get some action in Santa Marta if you want. But for the most part, where this resort is, like they like to say, tranquila, just chill out, just keep it light. All right. Um, so with that, I just want to bring on Sebastian to start because he's a local there. Sebastian's actually from Bogota, moved to Santa Marta, and it was one thing where I was just like, would you want to go home? Sebastian has a newborn, not so newborn, but a couple years old, and he said he would rather his wife is from Santa Marta. He would rather grow up his child in Santa Marta versus Bogota. So Sebastian, just let us know how you play a role in tourism in Santa Marta and even Bogota, and then what you thought of the resort unscripted. And the guys, I just told them about this like yesterday, so we didn't. There today, they were like, "What do we need to say?" And I'm like, "Just be honest, be yourself." What you got for us, Sebastian?
I was looking for the perfect words to describe the place when I saw it, and I thought you got the right words. It was a piece of paradise. So I really fell in love when I went with Rotisha to the place. I am a guy from Bogota. I've been living in the coast for the last 5 years. I was working as a manager for Red Bull in the whole region. And I met my wife here and I stayed in Santa Marta because it's a place that offers you mountains and also offer you the ocean. And to me, that mix is just incredible because when I'm too hot, I'm just go up into a mountain and I got a different weather. Sometimes I want to be in the beach, so I just come down on my car, half an hour, and I'm right there in the ocean. I was also telling you that the spot, like the location where this project is gonna happen, is one of the best locations that I will love to have a place there because it's been developing in such a nice way that the nicest hostel, the nicest hotels are just surrounded by where you guys are. It's the road is so close, like the access is incredible. You are like an hour from Santa Marta. You got the national park like next door. So the place offer you like a lot of options. Like if you want to do kayak, you just go into a river. If you want to see a waterfalls, you just go half an hour and you got one of the best ones that is called I forgot the name right now, but like the amount of nature that you got just right there is unique. Like you won't find that anywhere else. Like I guarantee you that. So I've been also working with Rotisha. Like Rotisha, I have so much respect for her because she came from a different country, but she's like Colombian. Like we see her as a Colombian. She was able to set up her business, to also create such a good relationships with everyone. And I believe when you create that amount of like kindness and relationship, everything start to follow, like people like to work with you, people like to push things, like as a Colombians, we like to see other people grow, when other people is growing, everybody grows. So the idea with this project, like I'm an artist as well, and what I see here is a big potential for like retreatments to really make wellness, that's the most important part. And you guys have we have people coming all year long. It's not like people just come on January or June. All year long, we got people coming to Colombia. Like the beach is amazing, the national park is amazing, food is amazing. So this area is also developing little by little, but it has a big potential to really set up the standards even higher and to create a bigger scene in the wellness, like helping Americans also with many things. Like the most important part is to reconnect to yourself, like like take away a bit of technology, take away a bit of like politics, and then just remember who you are as a person. And this location allows you to like breathe, to hear the birds, to like to be more with on the ground, you know, with nature, and understand what is life about. So I believe I truly fall in love with the place, because just having the river right there and then the ocean is like, this is unique. Like you won't find many other places that can give you that. So that's what I have to say, that I'm very impressed with the project, and I'm looking forward to be part of it, and to help it grow step by step.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. So, guys, one
Yeah.
thing I do want to bring up is, so if anybody knows me personally, knows that I'm always a person that brings people together, right? That was part of me creating Skyton Academy. So when you start to look at getting second passports and visas, there's only a few ways to do it. One, you get lucky, women, you could marry a Colombian man, right? And then men, you could marry a Colombian woman, right? But that's probably not happening. So you have citizenship or visa by investment. In Colombia, there's a couple ways to invest in real estate. One is if you buy it on your own, you're going to spend, the value of the property has to be at least 122,000. In Rotisha, you could jump in if I'm incorrect on a number. It's around 122,000, right? Value.
A little bit more, but you're right around there.
All right, cool. So that means you have to come in, and it's usually all cash purchases because the financial institutions don't know who you are, right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
The second part is if you invest in a company, or you set up a company that's going to do something, not a paper company, like a real company.
Yeah.
So when I put this stuff together for my wife, I said, listen, we have a great tribe of friends and everybody's kind of on the same tip. Let's allow for everyone to participate in this. Right. So it's a decentralized situation, guys. We're not looking for like full ownership or whatever the case, but it's twofold. The minimum investment when you're going into a business is $35,000 to apply for the visa. So anyone that's coming in with 35K or more is going to get access to, we're going to be working with Rotisha and her crew, her attorney, to get a visa, right? When you come in under a business, it's kind of a 1 year conditional because they want to make sure that the company is not just a paper company. So it has to be operating, employee, payroll, things like that. After that, you would get the 3 year, and then you would keep renewing for as long as you're part of the project. The way I envision it, Rotisha is similar to me. We go to places, we can see so many opportunities, but it's only a few of us and we can't do it all. Right. So now she meets somebody who's probably similar to her, who doesn't want to open a nightclub and is seeing it for what it is. Right. We're going to make a lot of things happen. So there's so much more opportunity. So when we are looking to create this group of investors, you're going to have, if you come in at that level, you're going to have visa access. If you're not going to come in at that level, there'll be a return on investment. And Champ, you can just drop there's a second link if you guys want more information on like the hard numbers. I'm not going to go into that tonight. This was just the story of Santa Marta for you guys to kind of get a feel for what it is and who we are, right? So after 2 years, you can get access to the financial system or financial programs in Santa Marta, right? I'm not selling debt. I'm just telling you that you can now feel like you're part of this, right? We have to carry health insurance, correct? Which is really affordable, guys. So there's some perks that come with it. But if something was to ever happen in America, you do not have to come back, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. You don't need a visa to get into the country, but you're conditioned to only stay but so long. And in the times that we're in now, they're starting to actually kick Americans out who are overstaying their visas in countries because of what Trump triggered.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's getting harder to get into Mexico. It's getting harder to get passports. Rotisha posted today what it's getting even harder to get these visas. Right? They're starting to see what the play is, and things are getting a lot more expensive. I have friends that paid over $250,000 for passports, second citizenships and stuff. But it's not a luxury anymore to own something out the country. It's for survival. That's where we're at. Okay. So when we opened it up, my students, everything starting minimum at 5,000. If you guys wanted to bring a group of people together, it has to be one entity, not five people giving $1,000. It's you guys come in together. You won't be in the visa situation, but you will have access to an amazing property, amazing updates, and then you'll just know what the process is like, right? And even talking to a lot of our tribe members and our friends, Everybody has the same idea to go somewhere, but the issue is people have work, people have parents that are here, people just it's the fear of making the leap, right? So, me learning from Rotisha and other people, seeing the landscape, me just being able to just jump out of plane and just figure things out on the way down. That's just my natural propensity. You'll be able to get a firsthand glimpse, even if you're not invested in a project, you'll get a firsthand glimpse because I'll just be posting about the entire process. And at some point, everyone's invited to just stay, and you'll be treated well. So in the presentation deck, it will have the business model, how long the terms are, the return on investment, depending on what tier you're in. So everything will be clear cut. And then I'll have one-on-one schedules with everybody. So that way your answers could be, all your questions could be answered. Rotisha, you hit the land. She wasn't there. She didn't initially give me this property. We looked at some other things. We're going to do some other stuff. So this one I found on my own, and she went there for the first time. And what did you think when you went?
Well, first I was upset because I was like, why I ain't know about this property? So I'm looking at my team talk about y'all slipping, okay? It was so beautiful from not even the first time when he sent it to me. I said, oh shit. Where is this at? And I immediately knew where it was. I told you exactly where you were. And I was like, oh my God, I know where it is. I stayed at a resort like not far from it on my birthday that just opened up. So I was like, I can't wait to see it. We drive up and there's a gate. And then the gate opens up, y'all. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. There's a lot of things that go through, I guess, our minds. One is like, yo, we still have opportunities like this that we can build this type of wealth. Like, right. Like with everything that's against us, we can still find something like this that we can obtain. That's the first thing. And then the second thing, it just goes into like, oh my God, retreats, festivals, workshop. Like I went immediately into business. Okay, we're gonna put this because that's where my mind goes. But then you sit still and all of a sudden you hear the birds and then the wind is blowing and you hear the water bubbling in the pool and you just turn around and you're just like, is this freaking real? Like we said that to each other so many times. It was a group of us. I took my photographer, the architect. We took a lot of people there, just to see if it made sense. And everything about the property made sense. You know how you see something big, because this is big, right? But it didn't scare me. It was like, oh, hell yeah. Oh, we've been waiting for this. Oh, we finna show them what we going to do with this. That's what I felt. And it was like, it's it's a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer. I think Steve will continue to learn what is happening in Santa Marta. There's so many people that don't even stop in Santa Marta and literally go straight to Tyrona Park. That's from everywhere. I mean, from all over the world. That snowbirds, everyone comes here and they have that experience. The festivals that happen, that we can now house the artists at the retreat because it's secluded and they don't want to be partying with all the regular people. So it's so many festivals. Another thing Steve doesn't realize yet, and Sebastian actually brought this to my attention, the location of the property is in between so many different opportunities. And I draw just a little bit, I'm an artist. So I don't know if y'all can see, this is the property. This is Tyrona Park. Above Tyrona Park, you got Santa Marta, Banakia, and Cartagena. But after you pass Tyrona Park, you got Palomino, Riahuacha, and a bunch of other cities in between. But all of those cities host events. All of those cities have particular travel people who want to go there, and there's not enough space for people to stay. So we now have all that area to market to, and we're in the middle. It's an amazing property. I don't have to say much. If you guys really want to know, come visit. It's going to take your breath away. It's going to tell you right away, like, this is it. This is
Well,
it.
let's show them better than we could tell them.
Yes, I was waiting for the video.
This is from her drone and videographer. He did an amazing job, but he put together a short little video.
Yes. Where's the sound, Steve?
Mike here.
Hey Steve, you got to go into more and click share the sound, bro. In the options on the bottom, it should say more, and then you have to share sound.
Yeah, just reset. Share. Hold on. Got it. Perfect. All right, sweetie. Appreciate that. We hear it?
Yeah, we
Steve, before you say anything, that video don't even do it justice.
Barely.
I
Barely
would like
scratch.
to compliment. I would like to compliment something. It was really cool that we lived when we were there. We were thirsty and we just asked the guy that was there to bring some coconuts down, and they just opened it for us, and we got like the nicest water. Like you guys have so many coconut plants that it's like everything is right there for you. Like nature provides, and there is such a potential on that.
Yeah, guys. And then there's growth potential here. So there's currently 7 villas. We could expand to easily 15. We could double it. But that the deck would outline all things and how we're going to roll this out within the next 3 years. But the place is pretty much 80% done at where it's at without adding anything else. It's just really finishing touches at this point now. And it's a true gem. And it makes sense on paper. So we dropped the next installment would just be you guys just kind of digging a little bit more into the numbers, which is what matters. And like I said, we wanted this opportunity to bring other people on. You know, I've never been a guy that hoards information. You know it, and what I do every day with the teaching at the academy for the last 3 years. And you know, we teach the future of finance. So at some point, we're going to tokenize not only this piece of real estate, but we're going to tokenize other things that are happening in Santa Marta. So you're not going to be just part of this resort. You'll be part of everything that we have going on out there. You know, same market as the United States when it comes down to fix and flip, buy and hold. Your money's just going a lot further. And like I said, the important piece is when we can get access to the capital market, that's going to free up a lot for us to be able to move and expand. And Rotitia's somebody that, I mean, she hit the ground running. All I can do is enhance what she's already started. And this connection that we have is not for just this. We talked
Yeah.
about it, and she has a list of things, and I came up with a list of things, and they pretty much all line up together. So I'm shooting right back out there next month. I'm doing 3 weeks, and then we're looking to close at the end of June. And by that point, we're looking to open in, you know, November. We'll start to, and then December is my birthday month. So between December and January, you know, all investors and friends and family, we're just gonna everybody pick dates, pick a villa, and just sit back.
I don't know, y'all. December busy season.
Ah, We're gonna put a couple things. We're gonna lock the calendar up a little bit.
Okay.
So we're gonna have the place looking a little bit familiar. But like she says, it'll sell out in December if we didn't lock the calendar. So we have a little bit of control. I think I know a guy that knows a guy that can make something happen. So yeah, let's have a greater conversation. Champ, you could hit you can stop the recording and then we'll just take some questions if you guys want to throw some things out.